Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We've got a jam-packed episode for you today. We've got Avengers vs. X-Men Imbalance Patch news. We've got weekend mission decks. We have two different decks that hit number one on the post-Infinite Leaderboard, one of which you're going to get exclusively here. If you want the best Marvel Snap decks guaranteed, 3 brand new ones every single day, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's get started with talking about the balance patch. This imbalance patch is where if you play 3 Avengers in one location, that location gets +3, and then we'll tell you what the X-Men do after. But first, let's take a look at what Avengers count. The Avengers that count are wildly strange. Locations with 3 Avengers have +3 power. There's some really weird choices. There's like no Spectrum or Blue Marvel, and like a bunch of characters that really feel like Avengers aren't Avengers, but Bucky and Daredevil and Iron Lad are Avengers, and Moon Knight's an Avenger. I don't know how they got this Avenger list, but they made an Avenger list that doesn't have any great synergy. I still have 2 lists for you, and if you have a great Avengers list, please do let me know. But I think what they did for Avengers was really strange. Like Quake is here, Nova's here. These aren't classic Avengers, but meanwhile we left off other classic Avengers. I do not understand how we got here, but this is what we have. So what we have to work with is you would need in one location 3 of Thor, Wong, Iron Man, Panther, because Jane Foster doesn't count. That's probably not going to win you a game, Marvel Snap. You don't really want all those cards in one location. So, I mean, it's going to give you +3 at that location, so that's a thing. This is the best I could do if you want to get that bonus. It's going to occasionally happen incidentally, which is all you can really do here. Cool. It is a thing. This is just a regular negative list. I changed Thor because he's an Avenger for Ironheart, who for some reason is not an Avenger. That's the entire difference. This with Ironheart and usually with Shang-Chi is a real and really good list, and without them it's not so much. Alright, this is Avengers-ish. This deck would be really good if Spectrum were an Avenger, but of course she's not. So we have Ant-Man, Echo, for some reason Echo's Avengers-esque, I guess. We have Ant-Man, we have Echo, we have Luke Cage, Wong, Ms. Marvel, Iron Lad as our Avengers here. So we have a reasonable chance of getting a bunch of these in one lane. Not an amazing chance, but a reasonable chance, and then you can always do Wong Spectrum to add a bunch of power elsewhere. This has a reasonable chance of winning. If you feel like if they put like win with Avengers bonus active, this is the deck I would personally play. I hope they don't do that because I don't like Avengers for this. However, I think X-Men are absolutely phenomenal. I think the X-Men buff is better than the Avengers buff, and the X-Men that they chose work better together. So they gave us a bunch of packages for X-Men. I spelled Jean Grey wrong. Try not to notice that. But they gave us a bunch of packages. We have like a bunch of move and bounce stuff with like Nightcrawler and Kitty. We have lockdown stuff with Professor X and Storm. We have control cards like Rogue. We have like zoo cards like Strong Guy and Bishop. We can play Bounce. We can play Cable and Mirage and go Loki. We can just do Weird Destroy with Wolverine, X-23, and Angel. There is no shortage of things we can do with X-Men cards, and which gives all the X-Men +1 power, which is amazing. Particularly because, as far as I'm aware, what I've been told is if you just play Kitty Pryde over and over again, that's playing an X-Men multiple times. So if you play Kitty twice, you've accomplished 2. So if you went Kitty Pryde into Cable into Kitty Beast, you've done it. That's 4 +1. Your Kitty will be a 3 power. Your Cable will be a 4 power. Your Bishop will be... your Beast will be a 3 power. Beast isn't in this deck, that's just an example. Beast will be in the next deck, spoiler. But this deck goes with Kitty Pryde, Cable, Rogue, and Hope Summers as our X-Men, which is just stellar. Hope synergizes amazingly with Kitty, Cable synergizes amazingly with Loki, and this deck wants Rogue because it doesn't want to deal with opposing Mobius mostly, and it's just a really powerful card. It's a really powerful effect. It generates plenty of cards to make yourself a nice cheap Mockingbird, who's an Avenger, but whatever. Loki himself works really great with Mockingbird. This is a super cool and super powerful deck. Safety posted it, and multiple people hit Infinite with it basically immediately. Check it out. Give it a try. This is going to spend a week as one of the better decks in Marvel Snap. Also, Cable's really good in Loki right now, so strongly consider putting it back in. All right, next up we have Bounce. This is really similar to the old Docty Bounce that we featured on the channel. Hope wasn't out at that point. It was a Black Swan deck. Well, Hope's now in it because Hope's in everything. And guess what? Hope gives us an extra X-Man to go with Kitty, Iceman, Beast, and Bishop. This is the one with that curve I talked about at the last deck. It works really well. You on turn 5, you go Black Swan. That Black Swan bounces around a werewolf a bunch, and you can drop a Hit Monkey and win the game. Kitty gets really, really big in this deck. It's very powerful. In this one, you also randomly have an Avenger because Falcon is Avenger, right? The Avengers just don't synergize amazingly, but you can still pull together the X-Men relatively quickly. And like, Hope Summers is a 3/5, Kitty with an extra power, Bishop is a 3/2, Beast is a 2/3. These are all really, really great stat lines that help you win games of Snap. Again, the X-Men buff is a real thing, whereas I don't... Iceman is a 1/3, geez. Whereas I don't think the Avengers one is. All right, finally, we have a deck that does both. As far as X-Men goes, this goes Sunspot, Magic, Cyclops, Hope, which is 4. That's an extra 1 on Sunspot is great. Cyclops is a 3/5, especially in Evo is great. Magic is a 3/3. Hope is a 3/5. Cool. The Avengers are much harder to use because they're much more expensive. You can relatively easily for this, put Echo, who's literally only here because she's an Avenger. Could be Ant-Man too if you don't have Echo. You can go Echo, Spider-Woman, and She-Hulk in a lane. That's a lane that's fairly likely to win, especially because it gets +3. If you can then put Hulk in another lane, or Abomination in another lane, or whatever shenanigans, you should be fine at winning the game of Marvel Snap. And that's all this deck really does. I think it's worse than the pure X-Men decks, but it is a thing you can do if you want to. If you're adding 1 to a bunch of your cards, or 3 to a location, and then you're taking some power off the opponent's board with Scorpion and Spider-Woman, I think you have a reasonable chance of winning that game of Snap, and so I think this deck is pretty cool. That said, I don't really love these imbalance patches. If you enjoy them, more power to you, but they're not really for me. I'm just making sure you're covered, making sure you have decks to play no matter what the situation is for Marvel Snap. Let's dive deeper into a deck that hit #1 on the Infinite Leaderboard. This is BigBaby's Rank 1 Zoobird. I've been playing the crap out of this deck all day. I love it. I think this is a blast. BigBaby is one of the KM Best cohort of players who is the American player who is consistently ranked the highest on the Infinite Leaderboard, and this one hit Rank 1. It's really, really easy to play and wins against a lot. I've had really good success against Thanos with this. It goes wide so well, wide and tall enough so well. It is incredibly weak to Killmonger, but it does grab priority for Alioth really well, so if they're going to try and Killmonger you last, you can often just Alioth them in the face and win. And again, I'd like to credit Cam for getting this. Cam posted this, and I grabbed it because I have to show my viewers the #1 deck in Marvel Snap when there's a new #1 deck. We've got an exclusive #1 deck still coming later this video. Nico in this deck can be Iceman. If you would like Nico to be Iceman, is it as good? Nope. But Nico is still pretty freaking good in this deck. Do we have 3 Avengers here? We have Mockingbird, Ant-Man, and whatever the hell Sean... Oh, nope, Dazzler's a mutant. Oh well, if you decided to add Echo for some reason over Nico, you would have 3 Avengers. Otherwise, you ain't getting to 3 Avengers with this. Sorry. Cull and Mockingbird are required. Cull is freaking phenomenal in this list. Mockingbird often costs 2, and you're not beating a 2/9. Mobius can be Gladiator or Rogue. You really like having Mobius because if the opponent can discount all their stuff, they can go bigger than you. But if they can't, if they're stuck playing fair and you are not, then you're really, really advantaged. I suggest Rogue if you don't have Coulson, so you can just take their damn Coulson. Alright, so #1 player hit it with this, except he's not #1 anymore. He fell a little bit after this, but hey, anything that can hit #1 on the Infinite Leaderboard is impressive, even in the hands of such a phenomenal player. And this is one that will work for regular players, I promise, because I'm a fairly regular-ass player, right? And I was able to dominate with this. So turn 1 is a 1-drop, turn 2 is Dazzler, or 2 1-drops, turn 3 is Shauna or Mobius. I tend to prefer Mobius, just safe. Sometimes you drop a Mockingbird here. Turn 4 is Khazar or Mockingbird or Cull. Turn 5 is Blue Marvel or Mockingbird or Cull. Turn 6 is Mockingbird and Cull or Alioth. Cool. That's basically how you play this list. It's super, super good. Sometimes on turn 5, it'll also be Shauna and Mockingbird or some similar shenanigans. It's really powerful and it's really simple. Occasionally Shauna screws you, fair warning. Try not to get too frustrated by that. This is a really, really, really unique and distinct deck. I like that Zoo is... So I think Zoo is probably tier 2, given that Thanos is, I think, the only tier 1 deck right now. But I don't think Zoo is significantly worse than basically anything else. It's probably worse than Discard, but not by a lot. It's probably worse than Bounce, but not by a lot. And it's close enough to compete that if you're a good player, you'll be able to win a fair amount of your games in even the worst matchups. Hopefully hit that sub button, like, and comment. We do 7 days of video here at this channel with all sorts of exclusive decks. We cover everything. At the end of this video, we're doing a bundle guide. We're doing weekend mission decks. We do custom cards. We do everything that you need for your Marvel Snap journey on the channel. Hit that sub button. And if you're willing to keep watching a whole long video, I'd really appreciate if you try and watch as much as you can. All right, so Bear Mode asks the difference between Ladder and Conquest decks, and I don't think there is one really. Now, the main difference is, in Conquest, when you hit an unwinnable match, you're running, let's say, the Tribunal Ongoing deck, right? The Hella Enjoyer Tribunal Ongoing deck. And you hit a deck that's running Enchantress and that they're a good player, you're going to lose. And there's nothing you can do about it, and now your Conquest run is over. On Ladder, you hit that, you lose a couple cubes, you retreat, you go on with your life. The difference is, in Conquest, a big weakness can ruin your run, but any deck that has a big weakness, if it doesn't hit that weakness, can also almost auto-run to a win. So it's sort of counterbalanced. But that is fundamentally the difference. The one loss and out thing that Conquest has. I don't think there's a huge difference in decks. I think most decks that work for one work for the other if you are disciplined enough. The difference is discipline. A deck like that, that we're talking about, that Tribunal deck, requires much, much, much more discipline in Conquest when you see a bad match, in playing to your outs and making sure you maximize your cube wins when they don't see their answer to you. So I keep being asked about Mockingbird this week versus Ms. Marvel next week. Should you get Mockingbird or should you get save caches for Ms. Marvel next week? The answer, I think, is reasonably simple here, is it depends what you want to play. Mockingbird is in the current best deck. Ms. Marvel's in the last best deck. Do you want to play mid-rangey Zabu stuff? Then you want Ms. Marvel. Do you want to play Thanos or Patriot style stuff or Loki? Then you want Mockingbird. The only deck that they both go in is Loki, and if you have the choice there, I think Mockingbird is right now better for Loki than Ms. Marvel is. Cool. Other than that, figure out what deck you plan to play and choose what cards you get based on that. These are two of the most important cards in Marvel Snap. If I knew that if you didn't update the game, you could get both this week, I would have told you to do so. But unfortunately, I didn't know that when the patch turned over. Sorry, I can't give you information that was not known at the time. We didn't know that they were changing the Spotlight cache in the, in the patch, or sorry, in the turnover, in the patch, not over the air. Brandon Reese suggests that Thanos Stones start in the deck, and what that would mean is they wouldn't make Mockingbird cheaper, and you can revert Quinjet to what it was before. That doesn't do enough. What I'd like to see is, you know, those original 3 cards you draw, I'd like it if none of those could be a stone. I think that would mess with Thanos' curve enough to start bringing it in line, but Thanos is really hard to nerf, so we're left doing some really janky things like that to do it. They have to like explicitly print cannot work with Thanos on cards for them to not work with Thanos. That's basically what they did with Pixie, right? Pixie says that started in your deck. What that means is it does not work with Infinity Stones. Like, the stones are the problem, I think, obviously here. So if you can't draw them in your first 3, that means on turn 1, you only have 1 chance of drawing a stone. That 4th draw, which makes the deck far more inconsistent, which I think brings it back into line with the rest of the decks. I don't have a better idea. What I'd love to hear from you all is your Thanos nerfs in the comments. Let me know. If you'd like your questions read out in Sunday's video, leave one in the comments. Remember, tomorrow is not a regular video. Tomorrow will be the Snap Judgments podcast, where we had both Drewberry and Prashawn on, and we talked about all the data mines and all the and we did a custom cards prize. All right, this is our exclusive #1 deck. This went 79 and 39, which is 66%. It rose from number 5 on the Infinite Leaderboard to number 1. It's Demian's deck. Number 1 on the Infinite Leaderboard is crazy. 66% in High Infinite is crazy. This is, I think, the best version of Thanos right now. No offense to my other friends who have wonderful versions of Thanos. I played this and felt OP. Fundamentally, the reason I think this is so good is if they don't see Mobius and you draw crap, Loki beats the Thanos mirror. And if Thanos is the best thing, beating the Thanos mirror is a priority. You still put enough power out that you're really hard to beat. Obviously, Alioth is a threat, but you should have enough power to not lose priority. And if you have enough power to not lose priority, you have enough power to win the game. Everything else is relatively simple here and straightforward, right? The big spice here is that we're doing Loki with Mockingbird, and we cut all the Alioth Professor X stuff, and the Alioth Professor X stuff was what was putting different versions of Thanos over the top of mainstream Thanos. I think this version is likely better, although if you wanted to cut Magneto for one of those other cards, that's feasible. I'm not doing a million replacements for this. The weekend mission decks have other versions of Thanos. We have another version of Thanos later. We covered other versions of Thanos in both Monday and Wednesday's video. If you need replacements for Thanos, please check one of those. This version is hyper specific that I want to focus on, like that it's the Loki version that I think is the best. 66% win rate in High Infinite is completely crazy. Generally speaking, decks in High Infinite top out in the low 60s because in High Infinite you're only playing other High Infinite players. Like the top 10 players in Marvel Snap having a 66% win rate against them is completely nuts. You can find Demian at twitch.tv/Demian Snap. Just an unbelievable player. All right. This climbed from number 5 to number 1 on the Infinite Leaderboard, again with a stupid win rate. Turn 1 draw, turn 2 draw or Psylocke into color Loki, and that's generally better than Jeff. Turn 3 is Hope, is better than Psylocke usually. Turn 4, call on Hope, or Loki on Hope, or a 5 if you can skip that with Psylocke. Turn 5, Vision, if you didn't skip the 5, or Blobber Magneto, if you played on Hope, and turn 6, Mockingbird plus Shang, or Blob plus Magneto. If you just like drop a Mockingbird on 3 because Thanos is completely absurd right now. Alright, quick look at the deck. Again, everything in this deck synergizes perfectly. Mobius is the only non-synergy card here. I guess Mobius and Shang are your non-synergy cards, but they have the added benefit of, because Mockingbird is so cheap, you can play them on like turn 5 with Mockingbird fairly often, which is just complete silly sauce. Loki gives you an amazing win condition for when you're not seeing your stuff. It's turn 4 and you've seen a bunch of stones and not much else. You Loki, you'll still draw the rest of your deck, but now you get the best of their deck too, and it breaks the mirror. This is the deck to play, in my opinion. I played this, I felt disgusting and had to stop. I went back to, I played this for like 10 games and dominated all but one. Again, for whatever reason today, I kept forgetting Killmonger exists and I got beat by a Killmonger. I was like, what are you going to do? But outside of that, like this deck completely dominated. And I went back to the baby deck because I was like, that felt dirty. This is, I think, the best deck. All right, so weekend mission next, we have 2 more Hope decks, which has been like half the deck since she came out. 2 more Mockingbird decks, and a bunch from the past couple days, and then 3 decks with both. The last one will be the full guide deck of the day. All right, so we have Galactus Hope. I've never played this, but it has a really high win rate, like 60% win rate in regular old Infinite, which is still really good. I mean, the deck basically says if I put goblins on Hope, that's good. If I play Hope and I can play cards on Hope, I can Galactus on 5 and Alioth on 6, and that wins. And if not, I could just win with my regular junk package. And the junk package is really strong. So you occasionally win games of Marvel Snap with this, and it's a really good deck. It's worth playing. Galactus isn't seen a lot, so people still forget it exists. And if people forget Galactus exists, you get cubes. Next up, we have Hope Surfer. Our Hope Surfer deck is nice and simple. This is a Wong Hope Surfer for the specific reason that if you're playing on Hope, you can play Surfer and Absorbment on Wong on the last turn and get 10 bajillion power, or you can forge on Wong and then like make a stupid Shaw, and you get, if you're doing this on top of Hope, you get so freaking much extra energy. It's completely silly. Ironheart is your backup plan for that Wong Absorbment shenanigans if you don't see Surfer, and this is a really powerful deck. This is sort of like a negative Surfer without the negative, and it works really well. Again, this is the 2 highest win rate Hope decks that don't run Mockingbird right now. Or Thanos, I guess. Next up, we have Thanos Hela. Everyone stopped playing this, but I still think it's really good. This one in the Johnson Cup was one of the most competitive lists, and people just sort of stopped playing it because it doesn't have Lockjaw anymore. I don't think it needs Lockjaw. I think Corvus is still really good ramp if you don't have Hope, and you should run Mockingbird in every Thanos deck because Mockingbird is completely stupid and broken with Thanos. So that's this list. If you have Mockingbird, if you have Corvus, but you don't have Hope, you should be able to win an awful lot of cubes with this. Remember, Hela is not your game plan. Hela is an extra thing to do when Corvus decides to chuck some weird stuff. Next up, we have Mocking Giant Birds. This is just a different version of the Patriot. If you want to see Safety's version, check yesterday's video. But here's another one. It is just a simple Mockingbird deck. I really like Supergiant in this because what Supergiant in this does is if you get your like Squirrel Girl Mysterio shenanigans out, and you can somehow grab priority, right? Because you have Ms. Marvel, you have whatever. I guess you couldn't technically use Ms. Marvel unless you played her on 3. But if you went Squirrel Girl into Zabu and Sign Lane into Ms. Marvel, right? And you grab priority, and then you drop Supergiant, right? You can do the Absorb Mana Goliath thing, and you still probably have enough energy to sneak Mockingbird in there, or you're getting close to enough energy to sneak Mockingbird in there. And if you can sneak Mockingbird in there, you're just insanely ahead. You can also Iron Lad into Doom or Iron Lad into Squirrel Girl, and then get the extra Mockingbird energy that way. Like, this is just a really powerful deck that has a lot of shenanigans to do. I think Supergiant's like the most underrated card, and this is an amazing home for her. All right, next up we have, I believe this is Guest deck. Hey, Guest, is this your deck? If this isn't your deck, let me know, but I'm pretty sure this is Guest deck. Hopebird Junktriet. This is a deck that runs both cards, both Mockingbird and Hope, because, well, why the hell not? The junk all makes, or not all, the junk that's on your side, like the Demon and the Debris and the Broods, and if you Absorb Man Brood and the Sinister, all make Mockingbird cheaper. And then all those cards get buffed by Patriot, and then anything that you don't really want to buff, like Hood or a Sentry, you can Annihilus over. That's it. That's the whole deck. It's really strong. You can cheat out stuff because you have Hope. So if you drop stuff on Hope, you can end up dropping a Doom early, which is going to make your Mockingbird cheap. So then you can potentially, like, if you played enough other stuff well, you can potentially Mockingbird and like Annihilus to end the game, which is just shouldn't happen, but hey, it sometimes does with this deck because you can just steal so much extra energy that you win the damn game. It's a very cool deck. Next up, we have Thanos. This is our like bog standard Thanos right now. This is what I would assume, what I would call the like expected standard build of Thanos. This is what people are playing right now. Sometimes they throw a Goliath in for Magneto. Whatevs. It's real strong, it's real good, it's real consistent. If you want to win cubes and you don't care about like anything else, just play Thanos right now. It's not hard and it's really strong. Finally, our deck for the day is Ika's Thanos Evo, which is our spicy Thanos build of the day that I wanted to feature something really cool to end the week. Well, I know there's a video tomorrow, but like, spoiler, we recorded the podcast right before I recorded this video. So this deck is so good and so strong. And it can get the X-Men bonus now that I'm looking at it relatively easily because it's got Rogue, Cyclops, and Hope. Can it get the Avengers bonus? Mockingbird, Spider-Woman, Hulk. It sure can. So it can get both bonuses. Look at that. We accidentally put together a deck that could. It's a Thanos deck, so like you've got the stone, so you don't really need an extra early curve. What you're fundamentally doing is you're trying to reduce power with Cyclops, Thing, Spider-Woman, so you can get a cheap Abomination. If you're playing Infinity Stones, as you're doing that, Soul Stone also cheapens Abomination. You also get a cheap Mockingbird. And if you have a cheap Abomination of Mockingbird, that's a ton of power. Blob or Hulk should be able to win the game. Hope is kind of hilarious here because you don't always use her to ramp. Sometimes you just use her to have extra energy to waste for your Cyclops and Hulk. And it's really good, and it's really powerful, and it's really cool. And this one has a lot of variants I don't get to use. Like, I don't play a lot of this Hulk, the Horley Hulk I love, and this specific thing that is one of my favorite variants. So, like, you love to see it. You love to see it. All right, so you can find Ika at twitch.tv/IkaMTS. Thanos, Blob, Evo, and Hope are needed for this version. Mockingbird can be She-Hulk. It's worse, but, like, not significantly. She-Hulk is actually really good for this deck. So Ika highly recommends this. This has its bad matchups, unlike the other Thanos list, which it feels like beat everything, but it is still a really strong list that you will be able to climb with if you play it well. Turn 1, draw. Turn 2, draw over Jeff. Turn 3, Hope is better than Cyclops, but like you would really like your turn 3 and 4 to be Hope and Cyclops together, just for the record. Turn 4 is the other turn 4 option is Thing. Turn 5, start planning a cost or Mockingbird nomination to decide if you can just drop both, feel free. If not, drop Spider-Woman, or if you hoped, you can always just drop like a Blob here. So turn 6 is Blob or Hulk or Abomination and Mockingbird. And then, spoiler, you probably win because you just put 2 9-power things that are unshongable and then a stupid Blob or a stupid Hulk. Alright, one last look at this work of art. We all thought Ika Thanos was going to be great. It never was as good as we thought it would be. I think this is probably the best version we've ever had. So if you're interested, make sure you check it out. All right. We're going to end today not by looking at the shop like usual, but with a bundle guide. Team Avengers deal is absolutely terrible. This is one of the worst deals that we've gotten for cash in a really long time. $20 for 2,000 gold and then a decent-ish Hulk variant. And I want that certified unit title, but oh freaking well, I guess I'm not going to have it because this is poopy. If you like bad deals, buy this. If you want to reward them for giving us bad deals, please buy this. So this is, again, not good. But luckily, if you like at the X-Men, you also have a completely abysmal deal. This one actually feels a little bit worse to me because, yikes. Yo, Muscles, open this jar. I guess is a decent title, but for $20, you again get terrible value and a semi-cool variant. Don't buy these. These are really bad. These are genuine ripoffs. Like, these are feels bad, absolutely atrocious. Some of the worst deals we've ever gotten deals. The I can't remember the card that it is. The Sentinel is a significantly better deal than these. And the Sentinel is a worse deal than the version of this they gave us last month. So if deals are getting worse, don't reward them. Wait for them to offer us good things. Buy the good things. This is crap. All right, that's the end of that episode. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. We've got Abigail Gieslam, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, Hey Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, my wife just got home, LAB, Father Newman, Good Dog Gamer, Inc., Jane Averett, JD McDonaldino, who we featured a deck from yesterday, Aquila Platano, Caretix Lee, Koire, KCH, Doku, Philip Rakovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins in the Danger Zone, Robs, Silverman, The Bizza, J Bussy, X-Force V, Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Models, Lou Antonez, Matt H, Mikey Hijinks, NoFlex, Ocularis, Pretty Chill, Seamus, Spike Jones, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tucker, The Homie Min, and of course, Gunny T. If you like exclusive decks, make sure you hit that sub button. If you want to get the top decks from the top players that no one else has, this is the place to be. Please check out the Patreon if you're interested in doing more to support the channel. Know that I appreciate you all. See you Sunday with another Snap Take where we're going to do some more Tournament League games. Peace.